Thank you for joining us for this sermon podcast from United Church on the Green, located in New Haven, Connecticut. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are invited and welcome. If you enjoy this podcast and would like to learn more about our open and affirming ministry at United Church on the Green, please visit our website at unitednewhaven.org. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning to you hardy people. I'm so glad to see you. I know many people are on vacation, and I'm so grateful that many of them email me and tell me they won't be in church. So when I look out and see just a few people, I'm still very encouraged that we are an alive and vital and growing congregation, and all who know how to do self-care, so they're on vacation taking care of themselves. How's that for a reframing? If no one has had a chance to tell you how very glad we are that you are here at the United Church on the Green this morning, and welcome to all who have no church home. Welcome to those who need strength, who want to follow Christ, who have doubt or who do not believe. Welcome to new visitors, and welcome to old friends. Welcome to children and to grandparents, to mothers and to fathers and to single people. And welcome to families of all configurations, to young and to old, to believers and to questioners and to questioning believers. Welcome to everyone. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are more than welcome here. When I was raising my children, we went to a camp in the summer up in the Adirondacks. And every Sunday morning, when they would bring in the flags of all the nations that had to do with all the missionaries and members of every country that came to worship in that chapel, we sang this hymn that I'm going to ask you to rise now and share with me the words of "We Have a Story to Tell the Nations." Please rise. dear God, continue to be with us as we meditate on your word. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our Redeemer. Amen. Well, in the gospel reading this morning, Jesus is having a problem that I would love to have. That when I am preaching on a Sunday morning, the crowds would be so great that I would have to sit out on a boat to avoid being consumed by the ever-growing congregation on all the shores. Well, we're working on a long-term strategy for that. Matthew is writing late in the 1st century to a very mixed community of Jews and of Gentile Christians. They were an established community, but they were really a very divided one. He shares with his community Jesus' parable, which was probably told in Jesus' first year in ministry, during a difficult and disappointing time for the disciples. Jesus was being regarded as a nuisance and as a danger to the authorities. His followers might have been asking themselves, is Jesus' work really going to be successful? But this reading says that the success of God's work is certain. God's power is strong. This passage comes just after Jesus was assaulted by his opponents and the Pharisees. His instructions to the disciples come by means of this parable, and he interprets this parable to them far away from the crowds, and he gives this interpretation just to the disciples. He calls them, disciples, listen to what it is I have to say. One needs to listen carefully to one another and to his word. Matthew is highlighting the need for individuals in their community to bear a harvest. He calls out that each person needs to be a doer of the word as one who carefully listens. Do you know this parable? It's a very familiar one. And yet every 3 years, if you use the lectionary, pastors preach on it. Every 3 years, you learn something new, as the gospel is so rich in its stories and its interpretations and the meditations that we're called to have upon it. So a farmer went out to sow. You know, he seems pretty careless, doesn't he? Sowing seed along a path where birds would eat it up, and rocky places where plants would sprout quickly but with shallow roots that the sun would scorch. Other seed is scattered among thorns that would outgrow the plants and choke them out. The seed is going in all these places beside its intended destination among the good soil. You know, I can't imagine wantonly throwing seed among the rocks and the thorns and pathways, do you? Is that how you plant? Perhaps Jesus is trying to make us laugh. What kind of sower sows with such excess, such uninhibited childhood exuberance? Does this farmer know what he is doing? There is no mention of plowing the field or irrigating or fertilizing it. He just carelessly sows seed without thinking much about the maximum yield of his field, depending on a miracle for any kind of harvest at all. But you know, in Jesus' time, the custom was for farmers to seed the land before they plowed. So Jack was telling me a story the other day about the origins of our yard birds. Apparently, our dear Roger Adams came to church quite a few years ago with a well-devised plan, which only Roger can do well, with a well-devised plan for our Temple Street grounds. He said to him the soil in front of the parish house was just awful. It was clay-like and dry. I know, Don, you understand this. It just doesn't work that way, does it? He wanted to roll-till it deeply and then prepare the earth with healthy soil and with nutrients. Well, it took time, as we know everything does in churches, and it takes money, but Roger succeeded. So just look at our parish house gardens today. From what I hear from Karen and Roger and Pat Weiner and many others, when they plant their gardens, they plan ahead, plowing and irrigating and fertilizing and minimizing waste by sowing with some precision, recognizing that that means maximizing success. Is that right, Roger?
Yes, but don't forget Jennifer and Al.
I will. How is it then that Jesus admires the less economical farmer? The disciples are like sowers, sowing the good news of the kingdom of God and entrusting with spreading the gospel to all the earth, which is what I was trying to say to the children this morning. In spite of their custom to plow the land after sowing, in this parable, Jesus showed that the harvest was not wasted. Someone I read calls this the parable of the helpless, hapless seeds, since the seeds the sower sows really have no choice in whether they flourish or not. It is all in the quantity and quality of the land that they land in. If a bird eats it, you're done for it. If the ground is rocky, it withers. If the ground is thorny, it is choked. If conditions are ideal, the seed you sow might still not yield a large harvest. Matthew is telling them that each individual must do their part, and to do so, they need the help of each other and of God. I'll never forget the day that I went out to visit Alfredo, and I saw the gardens that just flourished around his home. And he said that when he bought the house, it was like a blank easel, and he could have the freedom to plant and color all the land as he wished. Your seed did not wither, did it? Do you remember this old proverb? One for the mouse, one for the crow, one to rot and one to grow. Do you remember that when you were a child? Did you hear that? One for the mouse, one for the crow, one to rot and one to grow. This old adage says that the seeds that you plant, maybe 1 in 4 will grow. Some versions of this have the wind or the rook taking away seeds as well. You know, I like the idea of the birds and the burrowing rodents sharing the abundance. The wind grasping seeds only to drop them into surprising places. I even like the realistic allowance for biological change. Some seeds folding back into the earth without the quickening spark to initiate fulfillment of the life cycle. See, the sower is generous, prolific even. And you know, I agree with Suzanne Gumphrey, who says, I no longer think of the thorns and the rocks and the pathways and the birds as others, with us as nice Christians as the fertile soil. I embody the infertility, the leaving to chance, the impossibility of stubborn thorns, and the innumerable rocks, and shallow soul, and the unprotected ground, and the carelessly trodden pathways wide open for winged robbers and burrowing bees. But some patches of good, rich soil receive the grace the sower scatters with such playful abandon. And maybe that little bit is just enough to multiply 100-fold. We don't need to hoard grace. So you birds of the air and you little mice, feed your families and eat your fill. But you know there is plenty of grace for all. One of Dan Rausch's favorite spiritual writers, Thomas Merton, wrote how this parable can speak to us today. Every moment and every event of every person's life on earth plants something in his or her soul. For just as the wind carries thousands of winged seeds, so each moment brings with it germs of political and spiritual vitality that come to rest imperceptibly in the minds and wills of men and women. Most of these unnumbered seeds perish and are lost, For such seeds as these cannot spring up anywhere except in the good soil of freedom, spontaneity, and of love. I believe that Jesus' parable of the sower is not about the occasional moment when God or a human evangelist sows a seed about God. Rather, everything at every moment of every part of our lives is a seed suffused with life-giving spiritual import. Let me repeat that. Everything at every moment of every part of our lives is a seed suffused with life-giving spiritual import. This claim is not to say that everything that happens is good or controlled by God. Instead, is to say that the sort of soil that we are, good or bad, rock-filled or thorn-infested, in each arising present moment, affects how we receive the seeds of experience that are always being sown around us and within us. Can we be open to this? Can we be? As tillers of the soil, we can see fruits like prayer and works of mercy, like feeding the hungry in our kitchen, cooking for Columbus House, or visiting the sick, or preparing the backpacks for those children of Iris who will be students this fall. Clearing our agenda and opening ourselves to the presence of God. So what does this say to us today? As we sit in this beautiful meeting house, so full of historic importance, and yet so relevant to our days today. I have 3 questions I want to ask you, and I want you just to take a few seconds to think about them within your heart and your fertile soil. What seeds have been sown around you? Are they suffused with life-giving spiritual import? Are there seeds that God has been sowing that in this moment you are ready to allow to be planted? Are there rocks or thorns that God is inviting you to trim, to uproot, or let go of this morning? You know, dear people, it's not ultimately about how much fruit is produced by our sowing and the seeds that we plant, but it's about the way in which God's word has taken hold in us. Our God is a generous sower, and the seeds that have been planted in us long to grow. If we allow God's seeds or words to take hold in our soul, we then may in turn collect the seeds of the fruit for another harvest. I do believe, truly, that God is at work not only in the soil. God is at work in our homes, in our offices, in the streets, in our lives. God's love is not wasted. Challenge us to sow seeds of grace and of mercy and love over new ground. Let us not worry about where the seeds might land. Let's just cast as much seed as possible, and then let us leave all the rest up to God. So be it.
In the gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red, that's gonna trouble the water. It looks like the band that Moses led. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children. Wade in the water, but I'm gonna trouble the
Thank you, Dennis.